or whatever, a stroke, misuse of alcohol or drugs, side effects of medical treatment. There's so many side effects of various medical treatments. And, as a result, one may lose mental incapacity either temporarily or permanently. Now, important thing is that there is no age limit of who can lose mental capability. Anyone can be affected at any time. So LPA is not for somebody who is old or somebody who's getting on in age, but LPA is for anyone who is over 18. And I think all the youngsters should kind of think about LPA and and how it can help them, or help in their day-to-day life. So when one loses mental capacity, we're losing the ability to make our decisions. And once we lose the ability to make decisions, our access to bank accounts, which is very important, may be difficult. You may not be able to access your bank accounts. Other financial decisions, you would not be able to make other financial decisions. And you lose the right to choose who may act on your behalf. So if you haven't got an LPA in place, you haven't got a choice to make who can act on your behalf. And it's always important that you have that choice, because you would then be trusting that person or people who can act on your behalf. And finally, you may not have a say in health matters, which is very important, because there are certain health matters, if there is no LPA, your family cannot also have say into how the health issues are dealt with by the professionals. And we'll come to this in a bit more detail later on. So you can see that not having an LPA in place and losing mental capacity could have consequences on our day-to-day living. And what are the consequences? So the standard of living can be reduced. If you do not have access to funds, how can you then, keep on having the same standard of living? Having said that, banks will normally keep on, or will carry on with any direct debit or standing order you have in place. They will not cancel those. Everyday liabilities accrue. So we know that if you can't pay your bills, which are not on direct debit or standing orders, your liabilities will accrue, and there will be consequences of that as well. The court could appoint a solicitor to act on your behalf, and health and welfare decisions with third party could also be affected. So the consequences are quite, these are a few I have quoted here, but there could be quite a lot more consequences of not having an LPA, or of having mental incapability and not having an LPA in place. So this is where lasting power of attorney comes into play. Now, what is LPA? It's a legal document. And in this document, the donor appoints one or more people who are called attorneys to help make decisions, or to make decisions on donor's behalf. Yeah. So donor is going to be appointing people to make decisions, and also to act on behalf of and in the best interest of the donor. And there are various requirements, of attorneys as well, how they should behave, how they should act, and on what basis they should make decisions if the donor is not capable of making decisions him or herself. Now, If there is no LPA, then we have to apply, or somebody on your behalf has to apply to the Court of Protection for a deputy order. Now, deputy order could take, 5, 6, 7 months to be in place. There's a court fee of £400 to pay. And in addition, there's an insurance bond to cover the value of the estate. So the deputy, uh, to whom the deputy order has been granted, will have to put an insurance bond in place to cover the value of the whole estate of um, the person is deputizing for. There are two types of LPAs: health and welfare LPA and property and financial affairs LPA. You can choose to make one type of LPA or both type of LPA. There are separate applications. You can choose to have either one or the other or both, but they're separate applications one has to make. You can make the applications at the same time, but on separate forms. Health and welfare LPA. What is health and welfare LPA? It's only used when you're unable to make decisions yourself. And you can choose to give the attorney the authority to decide on either life-sustaining treatment, the type of care you receive, or both of the above. So, we are aware at the moment, there's so many people who are suffering from various life-sustaining issues or, illnesses. And one can choose to give the attorney that authority to decide on that. So, for example, if there is somebody is on a on a ventilator or whatever, and the attorney can decide whether the ventilator should be switched off or not. If not, then obviously life will carry on, but there'll be consequences of that as well. Now, life-sustaining treatment is medical care, surgery, medicine. Could be a serious operation. So, if somebody needs a serious operation, the attorney needs to give that authority to do that. Cancer treatment, artificial nutrition or hydration. So these are the examples of the life-sustaining treatment. And if you don't have the LPA, health and welfare LPA in place, then decisions on these life-sustaining treatment will be made by the medical professionals who are looking after you. Obviously, they'll be made in the best interest of you as a person, and to sustain the life. But you may not want that, so there are LPA comes into play there. Type of care: this is daily routine, washing, dressing, eating, medical care, and moving into a care home. So again, the attorney can can address these issues on your behalf if you haven't got and just to clarify, the health and welfare LPA only comes into play when one actually loses the mental capacity. Okay. So there is a myth. The myth is that if anything happens to me and a decision needs to be made about life-sustaining treatment, the doctor will automatically follow the wishes of my next of kin. And we, generally think that that is true. But in reality, it's only through LPA that whoever we've been given who are the attorneys can actually give the wishes or, give the instructions or directions. The next one is the property and financial affairs LPA. Now this deals with property and other assets. So, everything to do with the financial aspects of your life, bank accounts, property, any other assets you have, things like that. You can apply it more widely and can be used at any time, or can restrict it so it's only used if you lose mental capacity. Unlike the health LPA, health and welfare LPA, where it's only kicks in when the mental capacity is lost. On the property and financial affairs LPA, you can stipulate whether you give the authority or the power to the attorneys to apply it anytime, or you can restrict it that it's only applicable when you lose mental capacity. And there's also within the financial, and both in fact, health and welfare and the property and financial affairs LPA, there is a section where you can actually sort of give specific instructions as well as to there are certain things the attorneys can or cannot do. Again, a myth: if I suffer an accident or illness, my spouse or my children will automatically be able to take over the running of my affairs as my next of kin. In reality, there's no automatic right. Applied to the court of protection for a deputy um, is what's going to happen in this case. Okay, and there could be long, complex, and intrusive the application to the court of protection deputy. Just a quick um, quick reminder, or quick sort of clarification on joint bank accounts. Obviously joint bank accounts are there, sort of so both parties who are joint account holders can actually operate the account, and it is basically understood that both however many account holders are joint account holders, they all give each other the authority to handle the bank accounts. When it comes to if a person, one of the account holder, loses mental capacity, the banks will then could freeze the account, because the money can be used in an inappropriate way and not in the best interest of the person, one of the joint account holders. So again, I'll come to that in a minute. Another myth: I can simply add my spouse or children to my bank accounts as a joint account holder, would just carry on as normal in the event of my mental incapacity. Reality: the banks are guided by the British Banking Association, and the account can be frozen where one account holder loses mental capacity. And that is in the best interest of the person who's lost the mental capability. So in terms of a valid LPA, either health and welfare or a financial one, anyone over the age of 18 years can actually apply for an LPA. Must have mental capacity or the ability to make your own decisions when you make your LPA. And you don't need to live in the UK or be a British citizen. You can still, apply for, if you have assets in the UK, you can apply for an LPA. And importantly, it's got to be registered with the Office of Public Guardian. If it's not registered, then it's not valid. So I had an incident, or a case where somebody approached me and said they went through a financial advisor, and they thought they had their LPA in place and registered, and 6 or 8, 7 years on, they checked and it wasn't registered, and they had to reapply for the LPA. So unless it's registered, it will not be valid. Okay, there are a number of parties involved in an LPA. So I'd just like to look, just go through who is who of the on the LPA application form, so you get an understanding as to who needs to be involved. So donor. Donor is a person who is appointing other people to make decisions. So if you're applying for an LPA, you're a donor, and you're appointing other people to make decisions on your behalf. And those other people you appoint to make decisions on your behalf are attorneys. You can have more than one attorney, and I'll come to that as well. There's a certificate provider. Now, the certificate provider signs the form to confirm that the LPA has been discussed with the donor, that the donor understands what they're doing, that nobody's forcing the donor to to enter into the LPA, and has known the donor personally for at least 2 years. So the certificate provider basically certifies that they've known the donor for 2 years, at least 2 years, and the donor is in the hasn't lost the mental capacity, and is entering into the LPA willingly without any duress or anything like that. A certificate provider cannot be one of the attorneys, but it can be the certificate provider can be a witness to the signatures. So witness the signature of the donor, witness the signature of the attorneys, and can be the same person or different people. So the certificate provider can witness the signature of the donor and also certify the LPA. And the witnesses for attorneys could be different people. But there's also a sequence of when the various sections are signed and witnessed as well. So again, that is in the application form. The other party is people to notify. Other than attorneys, you have to notify, if you want to notify other parties. And if you notify other parties, they can actually raise concerns about the LPA, that you are not in sound mind, or you've been forced into entering into an LPA, and their concerns can then be sort of taken into consideration by the OPG, Office of Public Guardian. But you don't have any obligation to notify anyone else. So you don't have to complete this section if you don't want to notify anyone. Okay, how does one go about the before we do that, let me just quickly say a bit about the attorneys. You can have one attorney, or you can have more than one attorney. It's always best to have more than one. If one is not around, one is not able or capable, to carry on the decisions, on your behalf. And also, there are options on your application whether you want the attorneys to work, or to attend to your LPA jointly, or sort of jointly and severally, right? So any one of three, if you have, can actually sort of help you with your decisions. Or if it's jointly, then if there are three, then all three have to agree on the decision, and that can cause a problem if one is not around for whatever reason. Then the decision has got to be deferred until that person is around. What is the process and fees? The process is very, very simple. There are forms available on the government website, which is up here. And the forms are basically, you can complete the forms online, but you need to print them because all the forms need to be signed. Or you can print the forms first and hand complete them. and the fee is £82 per LPA. So if you're entering, applying for two LPAs, one for health and welfare and one for financial matters, then it's £164 for each person, or £82 per LPA per person. One thing which I'd also like to sort of mention is there are lots of people who are providing a service of LPA applications, and these are kind of commercial companies, commercial organizations, or it could be solicitors or financial advisors, and they would charge you their own fees. And I've heard and I know of people being charged between 300 to 500 pounds per LPA, whereas the actual cost is only £82, and it's so simple to complete. So you can actually complete it yourself, because if you were to give somebody if you were to use somebody to complete your LPA, you've still got to provide all the information. You've still got to do all the sort of donkey work, if you like, to be able to, for the other person to be able to complete your application, but you still need to sign it as well. So fee is £82 if you do it yourself, but it could be whatever, whoever you go to, whatever they charge. Um, what do you need when when you're completing the LPA? You need obviously your name, address, date of birth of yourself if you're the donor. You also need name, addresses, and dates of birth of all attorneys and replacement attorneys. Now, I haven't talked about replacement attorneys at the moment, but in case if one of the attorneys is not available, or sort of is not there, then you can have replacement attorneys as well in place. And that is something which you have to decide, when you're completing the LPA. Again, you got to have the name and address of the certificate provider and also the witnesses. And if you want to notify other people, then their names and addresses. And what will happen is that once you've applied for the LPA and the LPA is registered, a copy of the LPA, the original copy, will be sent to you, the donor, to yourself, and there will be copies of the registered LPA sent to the attorneys, not to the certificate provider or the people to notify. Right. You have entered into an LPA, can you change it? Yes, you can. You can only change it if you still got the mental capacity. If you haven't got the mental capacity, then you can't change it. And when do you need to change the LPA? If you want to, if one of the attorneys is, for whatever, is no longer with us, then, you may want to add on another attorney and also notify the OPG that, one of the attorneys is no longer with us. If the attorney's details change, if if their addresses change, then you need to notify OPG. Okay, that is the end of the presentation. I know it's pretty quick, I've kind of run through it. But the assistance is basically you can complete and apply yourself for the LPA. Seek more help or information from if you want any questions or information, further information, you can definitely come to me via Rohini Ben and Paresh Bhai. Again, I'll just make you aware that be aware of the professional fees. If you go through a professional organization, which is just going to be using as a post box. Okay. In terms of questions. There were a few questions which were sent earlier. One of the questions was on fees, and I've touched on the fees for LPA, but they also, I think the question also asked about fees for a will. It's very, very difficult to give kind of a amount for a fee for a will. It all depends on how complicated the will is, whom you go to. You can write your own will, and I know Paresh and Rohini Ben are going to be arranging a session on the will in the near future. A presentation, something similar to today's. There was, I think, Rohini Ben, are there other questions?
Yes, first of all, Ashok Bhai, thank you very, very much. Very well presented, like you'll see in the chat. They're all saying very well explained. But yes, there are a few questions. Is it okay to go through them?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And people are asking to share your numbers. So please message us, and we'll take it from there.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
So on chat, we've got, I've just taken a few pictures as we go. Somebody is saying, if mom and dad give power of attorney to children and after they passed away, do we have to renew? Could ask, so if we can ask you, this is a question from Jyotiben.
Sorry, renew what?
So Jyotiben is saying, if mom and dad give power of attorney to their children, and after they passed away, mom and dad passed away, do we have to renew maybe power of attorney? But that's what you got, isn't it? Is that?
No, once a person, a donor dies, then the power of attorney is no longer valid.
Okay.
Yep. So, as long as, the donor is alive, then the power of attorney is valid. But once a donor dies, then it's not valid.
Okay. So
hope that answers that question.
Yes, I hope Jyotiben that answers. But like we say, keep on sending. Even if we cannot answer it, we will pass them on to Ashok Bhai. Next question is from Navin Bhatia. Are the LPAs valid in a foreign country, example, India?
No. The LPA which you enter into in UK is valid for UK only. You may not be living in UK, but if you have assets or property or whatever in the UK, then it is valid here, yes. But not the LPA which you enter into UK will not be valid in India, because there are different legislations, different regulations.
Sorry, Ashok, I just want to confirm that what you just said to everyone is that you could be living outside the country, but you have to register in the UK to have the power of attorney to be used in the UK.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. If LPA, this is a question from, it just says Ila, so Ilaben, if LPA is registered and one change, but I think you answered that anyway, one change the address, do we have to apply for new LPA or the old one stays valid?
No, you just notify the Office of Public Guardian about the changes.
Like I said, you did cover that question. Yep. Next one is from Naren. If one has done LPA, then if circumstances changes, can you cancel it at a later date? Again, I think you did.
Yes, you can cancel it. You can revoke the LPA. You just have to write to the Office of Public Guardian, and that will be cancelled or revoked.
Is there a fee for that, or is that the standard process?
No, it's a standard process. There's no fee for that.
Okay. Next question is from Mita. Is it better to have, again, you've answered this, but it's good to have all these questions. Is it better to have one main attorney plus one reserve, or two attorneys?
Well, on attorneys, let me just say that when you choose attorneys, you got to choose wisely, in the sense that you got to be trusting the person you choose. Secondly, you got to be choosing somebody who is going to act in your best interest. And anyway, the law states that, the attorneys have got to act in the best interest of the donor. If you choose just one attorney, what will happen is that if that attorney is not around, then, nothing will happen, no action will be taken, no decisions will be made. If you have more than one, then obviously it helps. And, if, again, if it only helps actually if you give the attorney, there is whether, sort of they act jointly and severally, or jointly for some decision. So, if it's jointly, then however many attorneys you have, all the attorneys must agree on the decision. If they don't agree, then the decision cannot be made. So normally, one applies when one applies for the LPA. Normally, 99% of the people will tick the box which says jointly and severally. So, attorneys can make decisions on their own or together.
Ashok Bhai, can I just add to that question in regards to transferals? Is it possible to transfer a power of attorney, or does that become cancelled and you have to create a new one?
When you said transferal, sorry.
So if you got a power, say for example, I have a power of attorney, but my condition is not to the same state as when that was made active, and that power of attorney has to be someone else taking that decision for that particular person for that particular donor. So would I be able to transfer mine to someone else's name, or would that be a new?
Sorry, you are the attorney, yes?
I'm the attorney. Would
No.
that cancel, no. And would that be a new person because of my circumstances changing?
No, if your circumstances change and if there's only one attorney, then, this is where replacement attorneys come in to play. Yep. So if you have identified replacement attorneys in your LPA, if you've named them, then, sort of they will then automatically come into play.
And if you haven't?
If you haven't, then, the donor has to appoint other attorneys and let the OPG know.
I just wanted, I thought that was the answer, but I just wanted you to kind of clarify for people out there that when you are making a decision, it's very, very important how you make that decision. So it needs to be a gathered conversation with all the people who are involved in that particular decision, whatever that decision may be to be made.
Yeah. The attorney, I mean, there is a law which says that attorneys must always act in your best interest. Yep. When making decisions and for acting for you. So they must do everything that can help to make all or part of a decision and identify, what you could take into account if you were making a decision. Yep. So if, for example, you are the donor and you were kind of making decisions in a certain way, then, the attorney has got to kind of, follow that kind of a way of making a decision. Hopefully that answers the question, but if not.
I was just making sure. I wanted people out there to understand that this is not a decision that can just be made like that at a point of it's not a case of it's about thinking the whole process through. Who is going to be involved, and understanding that, making sure no one is left out in that position, because they will come to a point. This is a very, very important decision that you're making, giving someone else control over your of your life. So it's very, very important who you have involved in that, to make sure all the right relevant people are involved in that.
Indeed. And in decision making, it's only the attorneys who will be actually making decisions. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question.
આપણામાં ખબર છે ને હું અહીંયા બેઠો હતો ને મને ખબર છે મને બધું ખબર છે આ બધું આમ થયું હતું પણ મેં સાઇન નથી કરી પણ આને સાઇન કરી છે હું એને you know all those kind of things. I just want to make sure people understand because we assume a lot. Absolutely. And I don't want people to go away today on the basis that they're assuming. It's very much to be very clear and concise in regards to what needs to happen when you're making these decisions.
Thank you for that question. So I'm sure, Paresh, thank you. Few more questions on the chat. Are you okay with that, Ashok bhai?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, question from Sheetal. Practically, how do you use an LPA? LPA is lasting power of attorney. Somebody asked and someone else replied as well. Practically, how do you use an LPA? Can you simply walk into a bank with, say, paperwork of LPA to undertake transactions?
Basically, what happens is once you've applied for LPA and it's registered with the OPG, they will stamp it. They will stamp the LPA. They'll send the original to the donor, and they'll send a copy of the stamped or registered LPA to the attorneys. And when the attorneys then can go to the bank, show the LPA, take their identification with them, and then they can, sort of use the LPA. But if, again, depending on, when and on what basis you ask the attorneys to act on your behalf, whether it's, immediately or whether it's only if you lose mental capacity. So there is a section, which says when to, I'm just referring to the actual, it's here. When can your attorneys make decisions? As soon as my LP has been registered, there's one option, or only when I don't have mental capacity. But if you opt for, one or the other, if it's one, as soon as my LP has been registered, then the attorneys actually can go into the bank. But you can also, sort of tell the banks that, you're still capable and you don't want the attorneys to make those, decisions on your behalf.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take next three questions in one, probably. Does the spouse have automatic LPA power? And then once the LPA is done, does it need to be renewed?
I presume by the question is that does the spouse have automatic LPA power? A spouse can use the LPA.
One question is, does the spouse have automatic LPA power? But you said that's what we assume, isn't it? That was what you said in the talk.
I mean, LPA, again, I'm not very clear about what the question is, LPA power.
I think Vinod Bhai Mehta, what he's asking, we just assume, say for Paresh and myself. So I just assume that I'm next of kin, so I automatically gets that. That's the way I see it. Does the spouse have automatic LPA power?
No,
but the answer is you already said in the presentation.
No, the spouse hasn't got an automatic LPA power. No.
Thank you. Then does LPA need to be renewed? It doesn't.
No. It's valid for life unless you cancel it, you void it.
Thank you. Or if there are any other changes, but that's only notification. Do you have to register with every bank in advance?
No, you don't have to. It's only when you want to use LPA that you go to the bank and show them the LPA.
Okay, someone is asking question on inheritance tax. We'll talk about that in another. Today we are just sticking to LPA. How to change address on LPA that is already registered with the PGO?
You notify the OPG. If it's the donor's address, then you notify, it's your address. If it's the attorney's address, you notify OPG. You notify OPG in writing that, this address has changed of this person. And that's it. That's a straightforward issue.
Mukund Bhai Ketani is asking, if I do LPA to sell my house, I think he did send this question earlier, so you already got that question. And then sold, but does not get the money from relative to whom I appointed. Can I get my money back? So maybe, unless you want to discuss that off the call, that's fine.
Well, it's kind of a very difficult question to answer, because when you sell property, you're selling it on behalf of the owner of the property. Yeah. So if the owner of the property hasn't got the mental capacity, you're selling it on their behalf, but the funds will not go to the attorney. The funds will go into the account
owner.
of the owner.
Yeah.
And then, there are other obligations which the attorney has got to undertake, in terms of that. However they act, they have to act in the best interest of the donor.
So you're talking about it will go to the estate of the owner.
If the owner is, if the owner has died.
Yeah.
Yep, indeed.
Okay. I don't know whether, okay, what are your charges for LPA? Somebody is asking. And as I said, we can share us your number if you need to get in touch with Ashok Bhai. Do we need LPA if you have a will? Does one need?
Yes. There are two different documents altogether, legal documents altogether. LPA is basically to be utilized or to be used when you're alive, whereas will is a document, which is your wishes once you've, died, and, how the estate has got to be shared or, distributed.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate that to everyone, is that this is two different areas. You need to have an LPA in place, even though you've got a will, because your will not come into action if the person is in a critical condition. Your will only come into place when that person is passed away, and that will be effective from there. And it's a process which will take place a long way down the road, because you never know when the date of death compared to the probate is quite a long period. So, and by that time, if you don't have this in place, it's very, very difficult to make any decision. So just want you to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, basically, LPA is whilst you're alive, and will is, whilst you're moved on.
So, two different official documents altogether.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
What I wanted to make stress to people, that it is important. Some people are thinking whether it's important to do this or not. It is important to do this, especially when children are involved, for looking after their adults, for their elderly. And it's very, very important that they, because some of the elderly they've always grown up with the old mentality. So it's very, very important. We're living in a new world, and the old world is no longer it's a standard. So there are a lot of things which have changed. It's very, very important to understand that you have to look at these situations, because the law changes quite regularly, and we have to keep up to date with what's going on. So it's very important to make sure that these things are looked at in advance.
Okay, thank you again.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, indeed.
The question has come up. Will you enlighten us? Yes, we've got next month. We're going to have, again, Ashok Bhai very kindly is giving up his time, and we'll have a discussion, a presentation on wills. So we can wait for those questions till then. Thank you very much. Next question is from NJ. LPA, very useful for tax purposes. Very important subject. Okay, thank you, Ashok Bhai. That's not a question. That's fine. Okay, is £82 one-off fee? And yes, you said that just stays. You don't need to renew it.
Yep.
Right. And can we arrange? Okay, that's fine. Is there a fee for registration? We just said it's £82.
Yep.
What happens if one of the attorney does not act in the interest of the donor? I think would you like to say anything?
Yes, it's basically, sort of the law states that the attorney must always act in the best
Right.
interest.
Yeah.
So if there's more than one attorney and, if one attorney is not acting in the best interest, then the other attorney can actually write to the OPG and that the decisions, can be stopped.
Thank you very much. Is there an added charge to replace or add an attorney?
No, there isn't.
There's no charge. That's it.
We have basically, if one attorney is no longer there for
Okay.
whatever reason, then you can write to the OPG and you can actually have a replacement attorney as well.
Okay, I think Ramesh asked, how can you make power of attorney from UK if you have a property in India? But you've already answered that doesn't, it's only works here. That's fine.
So you need to have one in India.
But no, that's completely.
We don't know whether there's one in India or not, sorry.
Yeah. If one has already got the dementia, this is a question from Kish, how do you get LPA providing the partner is in good state of mind?
If one has already got dementia, then you cannot apply for an LPA.
Okay.
Then you got to go through another process. You're then basically going to apply for something which is called the deputy order. Okay. And the deputy order is, as I said earlier, that it takes between, 4 to 6 months to put in place. It's £400 cost, and you also need an insurance bond in place for the estate of the person.
Thank you. That's explained very well. Rekhabin is asking, cancer patient on MST tablet, can they make power of attorney? Can they appoint?
I'm sorry, but I don't know whether they'll have mental capacity or not. I mean, if they have mental capacity, yes, they can. If they haven't got mental capacity, then they can't. And the certificate provider is obviously a key person in when the LPA is applied for. And, the certificate provider will certify that the person has got mental capacity. Now, the certificate provider hasn't got to be a professional person. It's got to be somebody who has known the donor for at least 2 years. Okay.
Thank you. Again, what happens if the donor or the attorney's addresses? We already said we do need to notify the changes of their address.
Yep.
I don't understand one question. If you have if you have a minor, will you need LPA?
No, LPA, if you have a minor.
Yeah, I don't understand what that question
Who's
is.
the person?
If it's a minor person, if it's under 18, then you can't have an LPA for a person who's under 18. So one of the requirements is the person has got to be over 18. Yeah. If that's the question.
I think that's what I'm reading as. Again, somebody's asking 2 charges. Yes, it's £82 for one for financial and one for health. So altogether it's £164. What proof? Next question is from Priti. What proof do the attorney needs to prove that the person they're acting for has lost mental capacity?
Well, they would have medical. Yeah, I mean the doctor will give that letter or proof. Okay. Hospital or whatever. Yeah.
I think this question has been asked a few times. What is the difference between power of attorney and trustee?
And trustee?
Yeah.
Sorry, trust deed.
Trustee, it says quite a few people have said the same thing. TRUSTEE.
Right. Well, power of attorney, you're actually appointing somebody to deal with your specific, either financial or health issues. Trustee is a person who is a member or, who is going to look after a trust.
That's right.
So if you've created a trust for your children, whatever, and then you've, obviously got trustees, who look after that. So they will look after the trust on the basis of how the trust has been created.
Okay, thank you. Again, somebody's asking about India, but I think the answer would be the same thing. Documents and LPA rules made here, will it be valid in India? We know it's not.
Nope,
This
no.
is only based for United Kingdom
For
as
UK.
we live. That's
Yeah,
right,
indeed.
yeah? Do we need to update the will if there's a change of address and to add grandchildren? We talk about wills next time.
Yep.
Would have been okay. Would have been helpful if you are willing to disclose your charges. Okay, will you be able to enlighten us on wills next time? Yes. Is it better to store LPA with a company, or is it okay to keep it at home? Does it need to be in the bank? Kept it
No,
somewhere
you don't.
safe?
No, you keep the LPA with you,
You need to provide proof.
And obviously it's been registered with the OPG, so they have the records at the OPG.
Okay. Again, Sangeeta, the one who said, I think it's the same. Can a donor impose LPA? I don't understand that question. I don't know if
No, I
you
don't
can.
understand the question.
Okay.
Sorry.
If you can elaborate your question, please, whoever has sent Sangeeta, please. Can we have the PDF file presentation? This is live on YouTube, so you can go and watch it as many times, stop, rewind, forward. So it's there. It's all there. What is Ashok Bhai's professional title? We'll ask when is the next presentation of wills? It's next month. Can we get the contact number of Ashok Bhai again? Please send us a message on our WhatsApp. Can we get a copy of this recording? As I said, it's already on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it right from the beginning. Question for Ashok Bhai from Pradeep. If there is a dispute amongst, say, the two or the three attorneys, then the OPG intervene, assist, or does the resolution of that dispute regarding, say, decisions concerning the health and welfare of the donor? Typo, sorry, 2 or 3. That's what I read. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch that question completely.
If there is a dispute amongst, say, 2 or 3 attorneys, like because there's more than one, can the OPG intervene, assist, or does the resolution of that dispute regarding, say, decisions concerning the health and welfare of the donor? What happens in that
No,
case?
the OPG will not, do anything about the dispute. The dispute has got to be resolved amongst the attorneys. Or if, the donor has got the mental capacity, the donor can cancel the LPG and enter into a new LPG.
Thank you. Sangeeta has probably expanded the question again. Can an attorney impose onto the donor incapacity? I don't understand that question. So
I'm not sure. Sorry, what it
okay,
means.
so we can forward that, and we can you can message us more in detail, and we can forward that question. Okay. Please arrange for PowerPoint slides. Can a certificate provider be a relative, not a professional?
No, not a relative. They've
No.
got to be somebody whom you know, either your work colleague or your neighbor, or but not a relation.
Okay. In a joint account scenario, does a spouse need an LPA to access the joint account? I think that was another important one that you mentioned in the beginning, isn't it? That we just assume I'm the joint account holder, I can deal with the finances. If you can say.
Yes, indeed. Again, joint accounts are basically accounts where each party, if there's let's say two parties, the two parties give each other the authority to handle the account, they handle the cash or money on the basis that it's being used for their purposes. When one loses mental capacity, then the banks have got the right to actually freeze the joint account. And the reason being that if the joint account is not frozen, then the other party can actually use the funds for anything and everything. And, there's none left for the party who's lost his mental capacity. So they are acting, the banks are acting in the interest of both the parties, especially the one who's lost the mental capacity.
Thank you very much. I hope that answers your question. Next one, if you have a trust, do you still need LPA? From
Yes.
Gavin, yes.
Yes, you do, because trust is basically at a future date, and depending on what kind of trust it is.
Okay. Is a certified copy as good as original LPA?
When you say certified copy, you don't need a
Doesn't,
certified copy.
yeah.
You get the LPA, which has been registered with
Okay.
OPG with the registration mark on each of the pages, and that can be used.
Good, good. Now only just few more left. How do we subscribe for future events? So if that's someone new, Arvind Taylor, you're most welcome. And the number that you got the link today, there's a number on there, Paresh's number. You can send your number and we can add you onto our RPM WhatsApp group. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashok Bhai, for presentation. Everyone is saying that. Okay, Geeta, a question from Geeta. Mental capacity is decision specific. So if the cancer patient on MST is able to decide they want to make LPA, they're able to?
Yes.
But like you said, yes.
Yeah.
So if capacity is in doubt, maybe able to, I think it's GP or GO it says, but I think, no, GP cannot help in that, is it?
Well, now GP can give a letter to say that, the person has got mental capacity or hasn't got mental capacity. So that will be useful.
Okay.
Indeed.
How can we create a trust for the kids and it's beneficial? But that be something different, so we can leave it for next time.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to help on the
That's
trust.
fine.
I think for trust, the main thing is to actually go to a solicitor who deals with trusts,
Okay.
because they're very complicated, and especially with children involved, there are all sorts of other issues associated with that. So
Again, a similar question: Can I have attorney based in another country?
you can, but obviously there are issues, problems relating to that, because attorneys based in other countries, you need somebody here to actually be able to deal with your affairs, physically, to go to the bank or whatever. So you can have attorneys, based in other countries, but you should not.
Right. If anyone has dispute with lawyers, what can be done, i.e. process to follow? That's different. It's not relevant today, is it?
No, but just very quickly, sort of, you can go to the Law Society website, and they've got various information on that. There was Rohini Ben. There was another question which you sent to me on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
About tenants, joint tenants, and tenants in common.
Yeah.
Shall I quickly just go through that?
Yeah, and I think I've only got last three on the chat, and we'll finish saying enough on the chat, and you can still send it. We'll forward it to Ashok Bhai. Last one, may I say that it has been wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Who decides whether I have mental capacity? You already said the doctor can have to prove that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And please ask about 2 financial LPAs. There's not 2. There's one health and one. Is that right?
Health and welfare and property and financial. Yes.
Okay, so that's it. So that's all the question from the chat. We will, if you still have any questions, please put them on and we'll forward them to Ashok Bhai later on. But Ashok Bhai has still got a few questions that I had already sent to him.
Well, basically, I think we've covered 2 or 3 questions during the question answer and presentation. There's one question which came about relating to joint tenancy and tenancy in common. What is the difference? And basically, in England and Wales, when one buys a property, a home, and with a second person, then they need to let the land registry know how you would like to own that property. Yep. Whether you want to own it as joint tenants or tenants in common. Slight difference between the two. Joint tenancy is actually you own the property in 50-50 shares. Yeah. And if one dies, then the other will automatically inherit their share of the property. So joint tenancy, two people, 50-50. If one dies, it automatically passes on to the surviving person, surviving partner. If you sell the property, then the both need to agree to the sell, and also the proceeds are split 50-50. So that's joint tenancy. And tenancy in common is basically each party, if there are two parties, they own 50% of the share in the property, right? And if one dies, the will be used to see who will inherit the share of the person who has died. So it does not automatically pass on to the other party who is part of the joint tenants in common. Again, in tenants in common, you can leave your share to anyone that you choose in your will. So it doesn't have to go to the other party, the other partner in the tenants in common. It can go to anyone. You can sell or also give away your share of the tenancy in common. And if you need to move into a care home at a later date, then what will happen in tenants in common is that any benefits which are means tested, or charges which are mean tested, will be done on the basis of your share in the property rather than the full property. So those are kind of very subtle differences between the two. I think Kalavati Ben has got her hand up. I don't know whether...
Yeah, sorry. That was Suresh Bhai's question, so thank you for answering that. But he's just saying, which is better of the two? But I guess you right?
You got to make a decision, Suresh Bhai, based on your, what you want.
Okay, we've got a couple of... please, instead of raising hands, is it possible to put the question on the chat, please? You can write it on the chat. Because can you say who's raised the hands? Unless, shall we take the slide? Is that okay still to keep it?
Shall I take the slide off?
So we can see them. If that's okay, Ashok Bhai.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
We'll just take those last two questions. Everyone else, as I said, if you still have any more questions, વધારે પ્રશ્ન હોય તમે બોલીને અમને WhatsApp પર પણ મૂકી શકો છો. અમે અશોકભાઈને ફોરવર્ડ કરશું.
Do you want me to kill the
slide છે અને એ YouTube ઉપર છે, એટલે તમારે જેટલી વાર જોવું હોય તમે ધીમે રહીને જોઈ શકશો, સમજી શકશો. કાંઈ પણ પ્રશ્ન હોય તો પૂછી શકશો. We will quickly, આપણે એટલા પ્રોફેશનલ નથી, પણ ગુજરાતીમાં બેસિક આપણે પછી કહી દેશું. અત્યારે પેલા અશોકભાઈનો સમય વધારે આપણે નથી લેવો, પણ જે બે જણાએ જેને હાથ ઉપર કર્યા છે, just try and see કલાવતી બેન and that's okay. કલાવતી બેન, તમે મને મેસેજ કરવો હોય તો પછી મેસેજ કરી દેજો, કારણ કે વિડીયો પણ તમારો ઓન નથી. બીજા કોઈ પણ પ્રશ્ન હોય પ્લીઝ હજુ પણ સમય છે, ચેટ ઉપર લખી શકો છો, અથવા તો પરેશને કે મને વોટ્સએપ કરી શકશો છો. Most of them are just saying very good presentation. I'm sure Ashok Bhai is picking up all the messages.
I'm not.
So before we open it up, and thank you very much, Ashok Bhai, for giving up your time to give us a bit of, ઘણાને હશે, કદાચ ઘણાને ખબર પણ હશે કે LPA શું છે, જ્યારે ઘણા હશે પહેલી વખત શબ્દ સાંભળ્યો હશે, અને એને માટે વધારે આપણને એની જાણકારી અશોકભાઈ આપી. And Ashokbhai, there are some of them are asking as well, what is your professional so they would like to know, Ashokbhai Shah, they want to, but never mind.
Can I just quickly answer that? I'm doing this as a seva to the community, and I'm bringing awareness to the community. So in terms of my professional fees, I don't charge any professional fees. If anybody needs any help, I can help them out. But, obviously, I can only help to a certain extent, because if I've got 50 people coming to me for help, I wouldn't be able to help everyone. That is my life for the last, 20, 25 years has been, sort of as a seva worker, for the community. My professional background is I'm a chartered accountant. I worked in the industries and in kind of legal capacity as well. So that is my background, and I've been retired now 17 years, something like that. Sorry, 15 years, yes.
But
So just to give everybody that kind of background, and I don't charge any fees for any presentations or anything like that, or any advice I may give. I don't charge any fees.
like I said, Ashok Bhai is very, very kindly, again from his busy schedule. And that's where Ashok Bhai, આપણે નીતિનભાઈને આપણે બધા ઓળખો છો, ભારતીબેન અને નીતિનભાઈ, એના થ્રુ અમને we had the fortune of meeting Ashok Bhai as well. So we are very humbled through Nitin Bhai we got to meet you, Ashok Bhai. Thank you very much for doing this seva. સાઈ ડિવોટી છે, એટલી બધી સેવા, એમાં પણ ઘણી સેવા આપે છે અશોક ભાઈ. અને all I had to do, I was logged on one દર રવિવારે પીનાર સાયન્સ સેન્ટરના ભજન્સ હોય છે, and I saw this slide show where Ashok Bhai gave a talk, and I thought, you know what, RPM family could benefit from this. And willingly Ashok Bhai accepted our request. Okay, is it possible, okay, we can offer this to RPM family, extended RPM family. બધી બાજુથી we've got people from overseas, and ભલે એ લોકોને કદાચ એ દેશમાં કામ નહીં આવતું, પણ થોડી ઘણી આપણને આ વિષયમાં થોડું જ્ઞાન મળે, તો we can look into it. And like we said, પહેલા જ કીધું કે there is no age. આપણે એવું નથી વિચારવાનું કે આપણે 80 વર્ષના 70 વર્ષના 75 વર્ષના થશે ત્યારે જ આ વસ્તુની चिंता કરવાની છે. No, we just need to make sure we take control of our life so that our dear ones don't have to go through difficult times. Again, Ashok Bhai is very kindly going to give us a presentation on wills, which is going to be on 13th of April, as far as I know, but we will confirm. April ni date che. Again, it will be a Monday evening. So we're working more. Monday, we are working as well. No, not working. We are all meeting together. Ashok Bhai, a big thing. I think there are two hands up. Are you okay, Ashok Bhai, to take a couple
Yeah,
more
sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Panna Kotecha, please. And then after
okay.
2 questions, we will, okay.
Ashok Bhai, Jai Shri Krishna, and thanks for your valuable time.
You're welcome.
આપણે જે tenant છે, tenant in common, અને 50-50 tenant.
Yep.
So we have to do both the application, or one is good enough?
Sorry, તમારી tenancy છે.
હા, આપણે tenancy હોય, tenant in common.
હા.
So if say for example બે જણા જીવતા હોય, પણ one has got to go to the care home.
હા.
So obviously council will insist કે sell your property and pay from your property, and once the fund has gone down, then we will step in to help you. But my understanding is tenancy common જો આપણી પાસે હોય, then they can't do that. Am I right?
Tenancy in common હોય એટલે તમારે 50-50 share હોય, બરાબર?
That's right. Yeah.
અને તમારે જે ઓલું હોય આપણે councilના તમારે means tested હોય, whatever they give, benefits કે whatever. The means test માં લોકો they will only take તમારો જે element હોય, તમારો 50% નો share, any value, to calculate whether you are eligible for any means tested benefits or not.
Right.
Yeah. So
but they can't force you to sell your house because the other person is still alive.
Yeah, they can't force you to, but they can put a charge onto the house as part of your share. Yep, indeed.
So once the other living person who is capable, he dies, then the council can step in for the property. Barabar?
Yeah, or they can step in for whatever their charges are, whatever the fees you have got to pay them.
But they can deduct that X amount, and if there is £10 surplus, they will give it back to the person who is in the care.
Yeah, or the estate or
yes.
whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Bhai, can I say, because that's more of on the personal basis, if we can keep that to a general question, that would be very, very useful.
And you can send us the question, we can forward it.
Yeah, we'll definitely give you contact numbers with, Ashok Bhai, if anyone has a one-to-one conversation you want to have with him, because I think on the personal note, as a big group, we want to keep our personal lives to ourselves. So I just want to, Panaben and Bhai, I want to protect you guys from your conversation. So that's why I please don't take it in the wrong way.
No.
I appreciate it. This is very, very personal, and I think we need to keep our personal things as an overview. It was a good question, because Ashok Bhai was able to give us some guidance on the question. So thank you very much, Bhai.
I don't know. Last question, Kalavati Ben Patel. I don't know. It's a mistake. Okay. No, I think by mistake she's put the hand up.
Okay.
Like we're saying, I will check in my diary. It's Monday or Tuesday. We'll confirm with Ashok Bhai, but it's either 12th or 13th of April, whenever
Monday
it says. So
it's the Monday.
We will get Monday, the 12th of April. So we will, I think there are quite a few new people today as well. They're asking, how do they get to know about this information? But please, Ajnije link Maldishe, my number separation message on there. And we first of all would like to say thank you to Ashok Bhai, and thank you for giving up his valuable time. We won't take any more of his time. Because
that's fine.
Ashok Bhai, I have no idea what happens in RPM family. If we once unlock this, you'll be another half hour. So I don't know what your time schedule is like. We will like to say thank you. I don't know if you want to stay back on. It's entirely your choice. Ashok Bhai, I wouldn't want to take up any more of your time than you already had.
I will, in final, what I want to say is that, it's been a pleasure, doing this presentation for the RPM group. And not only that, but, I am honored and, humbled for being invited, to do this presentation. And hopefully, we'll be able to do one on Bill shortly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll see Ashok Bhai.
Jai Sai Ram, Jai Krishna.
Jai Sai Ram, Jai Krishna. Thank you very much, Ashok Bhai. Thank you.
Like we have a common common point, which is Sai Baba, and he's always sending us when we jare RPM chalu કર્યું, it's always been Bhagwan apne dayad rakhe છે. And he's giving us people like yourself and all the artists and everyone. They Hatma jave che, people, gems like yourselves, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very, very much from all of us, from the RPM family, for giving up your time to give so much wonderful advice to our RPM family. And we love each and every one of them so much, and we will always give up our free time, which is Monday and Tuesdays, for you guys.
And I'm sure, Ashok Bhai, you must have seen there were over 500 people today.
Yes, I did see that.
500. So imagine how many people have benefited from your talk. So thank you very much. Thank you for all the YouTube.
1,000 people benefited from today, because it's on YouTube as well.
Thank you.
And you can go and view.
YouTube viewers, thank you for joining on YouTube. And as Paresh always says, please like and subscribe. It's Paresh Mehta. If anybody needs to go on YouTube, જેને કોઈને આ પાછું જોવું હોય, તમે પરેશ મહેતા ટાઈપ કરશો યુટ્યુબમાં. હવે આઈ થિંક બધા વડીલો પણ એટલા લોકડાઉને ઘણું બધું શીખડાવી દીધું છે. બધા વડીલો યુટ્યુબમાં જતા શીખી ગયા છે, કારણ કે એમાં ભજન સાંભળવા મળે, દર્શન મળે છે. વેરી ગુડ, we're doing all the right things. અને એવી રીતે જેમાં તમે યુટ્યુબમાં પરેશ મહેતાનું નામ મૂકશો તો બધા ઇવેન્ટ આપણા હોય છે, વેનસડેના ને નહીં પણ સેટરડે ઇવેન્ટ્સ હોય છે. They are on YouTube, so you can rewind and watch the entire.
Please subscribe on there, because then you'll be able to catch up with all the events that we put on YouTube. And to all our YouTube family, thank you very much again for your ongoing support. You guys are absolutely awesome. We love you lots.